everybody, final thoughts time for Dice Settlers, which is a very, very cool 4X dice-driven game. And folks, here's the deal. I'll admit, when I went into this, I was mostly just interested because it was from designer David Turczi, and I've really enjoyed everything he's done. He's a designer who, every new game of his, he pretty much reinvents himself and comes up with completely new elements, and they're always very, very sharp, very smartly considered. So whenever he's designing a game, even if I think it's one I'm not going to like, I'm really intrigued to try it out. And Jay and I, we both love dice-driven games, dice, roll, re-roll type of things. And most of the time, they're very light, quick, silly little trifles of games. So the notion of a bigger, deeper, longer game driven by that core mechanism, I was incredibly intrigued by that. I was incredibly intrigued to see what Dave was going to come up with. I was incredibly intrigued to see more art from the Miko. Maybe my favorite board game artist currently going. Although I should say this is, everything you saw today, if I didn't mention up front, is prototypes. This is even a prototype box. I know the box cover art has been changed since then. But anyway, so there's a lot going in. But on the flip side, I was really kind of, it's a 4X though. And for those who don't know, a 4X game is kind of a civilization building game which features the X's of expanding, exploring. To explore your new area. Expand your civilization. Exploit the new area to expand your civilization more. And then to exterminate. Explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate your enemies. I was really worried about that fourth one. I didn't want anything to do with it. But, Dave said, I kind of trusted him. I asked him, I said, give it a try. I don't think it'll be too much of a problem for you. And lo and behold, it wasn't. And I think, I'd rather it not be, I still wish that X wasn't there with the raids and me being able to destroy your tents to build mine up and, do area dominance and all that stuff. I'd rather that not be there, but the rest of this game is so good. So amazing that I will put up with a little bit of player versus player, oh yeah, I drank your milkshake, didn't I? Too bad, type stuff, because this is a rock solid design. Starting right from the get-go where you put out those 9 different technologies, it's going to make for a very, very different game. Every time you play, there are so many of those technology cards, and they combine and combo in really interesting ways. That means from one game to the next, you could be pursuing radically different strategies. But then on top of that, that's the base. Then on top of that, you build all these different dice that are determined by what type of land you explore, what type of new resources you can get for you, whether you're going to use those dice to collect resources or just blow those resources to re-roll other dice or get more dice. There is so much fun stuff you can do with your dice manipulation in this game. It's a blast. It's very cool. It's very satisfying. And unlike a lot of these games, it is not necessarily the one be-all, end-all of, I just have to chase getting more dice. The more dice I have, the better I will do. That is not the case because of one core, central, brilliant mechanism. Doesn't matter how many dice you're rolling. You're only going to get to do 2 actions this turn. And if you roll a whole bunch of dice and, these dice would let me do 5 or 6 different things, pick 2 of them. Having a lot of dice gives you more flexibility. And if you roll and re-roll your dice with a little bit of luck, maybe the 2 actions you'll do will be a little bit more powerful than they normally would. But having a ton of dice is not the end-all, be-all. And that is so refreshing that you can do really, really well with just a small little collection of dice. While in other players, I roll all the dice every round. Why did I lose? Well, because it's not how many dice you've got, it's how you use them. And this game just gives you so many cool, fun avenues to explore, many different paths to victory, whether you focus on the area majority, whether you focus on the technologies. I didn't mention, but just collecting more dice, that is one benefit for every pair of dice you have. So if you kind of collect the dice you get as you build up your little civilization, that can score points for you as well. There's just a lot of flexibility. Coming back to it, man, I wish raids were just a little bit different. I don't even mind those so much because the nice thing is, if I raid you and knock one of your tents out of my region, it doesn't go back to the general supply, it goes back to you, and it's suddenly something you have that maybe you'll have a better use for it somewhere else. Because you can very quickly run out of those tents and oh man, I don't want to waste a whole turn bringing more tents from civilization out here to the frontier. You killed some of my guys. I've got them again. Now I can deploy them where I really want them. So it can kind of be a mixed blessing if somebody does attack you. I do still kind of wish, though, heck, maybe I'll even, because in a 2-player game, the reality is, if it's zero sum, if it's just me and you, if I raid you, what happens is you take one of your tents back and I put one of mine. That's basically a 2-point spread. I'd much rather, if I raid you, I don't take your stuff out. I just get to put 2 there instead of 1. That would be the same end result, and then it wouldn't be quite so aggressive. It'd be more kind of a Care Bear variant. I don't think it's necessary because, like I said, Jen and I, we've been willing to put up with it. It's a rare game where we will actually enjoy it in spite of the player versus player stuff. And then also on top of that, if you really, I might even go so far as to say a lot of the technologies increase the ability to wage warfare and make that a more valid way. You could just leave those technologies out so they don't show up. And if, the mountains don't show up, then very few of those gray dice are going to appear in the game either, and that's the main way you can attack. If you don't get very many of them, there's not going to be much fighting either. So this game could actually, even without having to do any variants, be kind of tweaked and tailored to any type of player style. I'm really impressed by this. It's fun. It's still as fast and fluid as any kind of little roll and write game, but it's a much bigger Civilization-style game that's being driven by such a fun, core, compelling mechanism. Folks, that's Dice Settlers. It's on Kickstarter right now. Hit that eye in the top right corner screen to go learn more, including the deluxe version of it, which replaces the little cubes and whatnot with actually little molded, sculpted tents and buildings that you place out on the board. Neat, fun game, looks great, plays fantastic. That's it, folks. Dice Settlers. Have a very, very nice day. Talk to you later. So long. Bye-bye.